I might be streaming later on today too, by the way. But y'all see this? This is the what? Like I've been saying, I said, yo, what? Oh my God. Nope. I'm gonna show y'all this first. I got to collect my props on this one. I got to, because I said something the other day that, well, I've been saying this, but I said something the other day that on Twitter that I just did not know would end up manifesting into this in like less than 24 to 48 hours. Hold on, I'll find a tweet. I said on September 29th, I said a couple, you can see it? Okay, cool. I said a couple of years ago that if you look at Western foreign policy post-World War II, institutional appointments in the history of how Nazis came to be, it is clear that the Nazis didn't lose World War II. Hitler died. That's not the same thing. Nazis were merely rebranded. I'm gonna do another show sometime. I'm gonna try to do it sometime this week. Just revamping. Because people need to understand. Like I did a show about it a while ago, but I'm gonna do another one because they need to understand like just how clear it is that like Nazis didn't win or didn't lose. But I said that the next logical question should be who facilitated the Nazis' rise to power to begin with, and who gave them important positions in NATO and other institutions. So those people are still in power and are crafting our policies today. I said, hold on. Oh, one of my tweets is gone. I also said, I can't find it, but what I also said was that eventually what we're going to see is that they're going to flip. They're going to say that Russians were always the bad guys and that what the Nazis were doing weren't necessarily like, yeah, they did some bad things, but just because you were in the German army and you fought against Russia, like that doesn't mean you were a bad guy. Like, and that's why we created NATO, because we knew that Russia, like I said that they were going to flip it. So now fast forward to this article, hoping YouTube doesn't ban me for this. Fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Y'all, ain't no way. Like when I saw the title of the article, I said, no, I got to read this one. Normally I would just laugh and pass it. I would laugh at it like, man, this is dumb shit. Like I'm not about to. But then you have to remember, this is in the context of Canada applauding a Nazi after pretending they didn't know who he was. A Nazi who fought in World War II specifically against Russia. And I even did a video where I said, yo, shouldn't the biggest clue have been a World War II veteran who was in Ukraine fighting against Russia? Like literally, that leaves the option of you being a Nazi, and then that's it. Like and I said that on one of my videos for Hotspot, and I guess they, Politico might have got word of it, and here we are. So yeah, fighting against USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. So let's hear the argument that they make, guys. Maybe it's legit. A lot of black people in this photo. Sarcasm. Mr. Kier Giles is an author and commentator. His recent book, Russia's War on Everybody, seems to be completely mistitled. I think he spelled United States wrong here. Just saying. Looks at the effects that Russia's malign influence around the world has on ordinary people. So clearly, this guy is extremely trustworthy, and we should believe everything that we're about to read. Right? He's about to make a strong argument. Totally valid, not biased at all. He says, A lie can make it halfway around the world before the truth has even got its boots on. Oh, man, gotta love the descriptive language here. And the ongoing turmoil over Canada's parliament, recognizing former SS trooper Yaroslav Hunka, highlights one of the most important reasons why. First of all, I feel like that's not the ongoing turmoil over Canada's parliament the ongoing criticism over the fact that Canada's parliament applauded former former Nazi trooper Yaroslav Hunka. I feel like you see how this article not really starting well, right? We already like, how the hell did you word salad that one? How did you word jujitsu your way out of admitting that they applauded a Nazi? Ongoing turmoil in Canada's parliament. ain't no turmoil, boy. Y'all applauded a Nazi and people were pissed. Anyway, he says something that's untrue but simple is far more You see how he immediately goes into the next paragraph, like as if that's like a lie that's being spread? What? He says something that's untrue but simple is far more persuasive than a complicated, nuanced truth. The major problem for Western democracies trying to fight disinformation and propaganda by countering it with the truth. And one reason why fact-checking and debunking are only of limited use for doing so. I'm assuming this guy knows a thing or two about propaganda. So maybe we should take his word for it. Okay, so let's see if he makes, because he hasn't made his argument yet, but let's just see if he does a good job making this argument. Okay, fighting against the USSR during World War II, doesn't mean you're not. So let's see if he makes the argument. In the case of Hunka, the mass outrage stems from his enlistment with one of the foreign legions of the Waffen SS fighting Soviet forces on Germany's Eastern Front. Now, I want to be clear about something, just so you know your history. Germany sent its soldiers during World War II to fight on the Eastern Front to attack the USSR, and those soldiers were wearing Nazi insignias. So, what he should be saying is, yeah, Hunka enlisted in the Foreign Legion of Waffen SS to fight the Soviets as a Nazi during World War II, like the rest of the Nazis who were fighting against the Soviets on the Eastern Front during World War II. He says it's complicated, but that's it's whatever, cool. And it's a demonstration of how when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit and appeal. What? I'm gonna read that again. In the case of Hunka, the mass outrage stems from his enlistment with one of the foreign legions of the Waffen SS, fighting Soviet forces on Germany's Eastern Front. And it's a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity. Once again, he is talking about propaganda as if he is an expert, so you got to give him that. This history is complicated because fighting against the USSR at the time didn't necessarily make you a Nazi, just someone who had an excruciating choice over which of these two terror regimes to resist. Terror regimes to resist. Russia was minding its own damn business at this point in time when Germany decided to attack them. Remember, there's like a whole peace deal. Russia was literally minding its business at this point. Terror regimes? That's wild, bro. You had the excruciating choice, be a Nazi or not be a Nazi. Oh God. Woe is me. Don't like me personally, I probably would have been like, yo, I don't like hate everybody who isn't white with blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, so I'm probably not gonna be a Nazi. I don't want to go to war with the entire world, so I'm probably not gonna be a Nazi. But whatever. Apparently it was an excruciating decision. However, The idea that foreign volunteers and conscripts were being allocated to the Waffen SS rather than the Wehrmacht on administrative rather than ideological grounds is a hard sell for audiences conditioned to believe that the SS's primary task was genocide. Holy do y'all hear this? This man said that the SS is we're just conditioned to believe that the Nazi battalion that was fighting the USSR on the Eastern Front during World War II, the same Nazi battalion that belonged to Germany, that was literally trying to take over not the country, not the region, but the world, where we're supposed to believe that that battalion full of Nazis, they weren't hell bent on genocide. Where'd y'all get that from? Motherfucker, we got it from y'all. If y'all got one thing right in the history books that everybody seems to agree with, is that Nazis were bad and Nazis tried to genocide people. That was like a whole thing. Remember? But now we're being told that's crazy talk. Like it's a simple narrative, guys. And simple narratives like everybody in the SS was guilty of war crimes are more pervasive because they're much simpler to grasp. I don't know if everybody in the SS was guilty of war crimes. I actually haven't even heard that. To be honest, I really haven't. But I do know that y'all are Nazis. Man, it's what's also crazy to me about this particular piece is all of a sudden a mainstream media publication cares about nuance. When we know, God damn, these are the same publications, bro. This Politico was the same publication that pushed the Russiagate theory because some random CIA agent anonymously said, yeah, Russiagate definitely happened for sure. We know that for a fact. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Okay, what about all the evidence suggesting otherwise? Yeah, nah. Definitely 100% happened. This is the same one talking about Americans just don't understand nuance, man. All right, I guess. It says Canada's enemies have thus latched. Canada's enemies? Canada don't got no enemies, bro. Why are you trying to make Canada more important than it is? Who is Canada's enemies? Canada's only enemy is the goddamn temperature, if we're being honest. That is it. That's all. And Trudeau. Because, you know, Trudeau is trash and literally allowed his parliament to applaud Nazis. And I know that motherfucker tried to be like, hey guys, you know, the speaker, he's really sorry. He's going to resign. In the parliament, they're really sorry about this too. And all Canadians, they're super sorry about this as well. We don't know how we got in here. Bro, you are the prime minister. That means you minister primarily. You are the primary minister of things that need to be ministered in a fashion that concerns Canada. And you gonna be like, nah, hey man, that was a speaker, dog. I had nothing to do with that. Y'all think they didn't go through a rigorous, bro? Before you speak in front of any parliament, legislature, bro, they go through everything about your life before you go up there. I mean, they're about to interview about everything about your life. So yeah, usually. So before you even step foot in a session, they know everything about you. And they're gonna try to tell us that they didn't know about this, whatever. That's cool. But it says Canada's enemies that don't exist thus have latched onto these simple narratives alongside concerned citizens in Canada itself with the misstep over Hunka being used by Russia and its backers to attack Ukraine, Canada, and each country's association with each other. According to Russia's ambassador in Canada, Hunka's unit committed multiple war crimes, which is a fact, including mass murder against Russian people, ethnic Russians. This is a proven fact, but whenever Russian officials calls something a proven fact, it should set off alarms. Huh? No, whenever any American or European official says something is a proven fact, it should set off alarms. Like Russia hasn't really lied about these. They fought Nazis and won. I'm like, if they're telling you the Nazis committed war crimes, I'm like going to take their side because they beat the shit out of the Nazis, and like now they're not. Well, can't say they're no more Nazis, but whatever. It says, and sure enough, excuse me. Here too, the facts were invented out of thin air. Repeated exhaustive investigations, like what? Repeated exhaustive investigations, including by not only the Nuremberg trials, but also the British, Canadian, and even the Soviet authorities, led to the conclusion that no war crimes or atrocities had been committed by this particular unit. Let's look at I want to see the exhaustive investigations. Oh, there's not this link. Hold on, let me see. I'm waiting for this link to load to see if there actually were exhaustive investigations. Because, you know, sometimes mainstream articles will just link some shit and like, yeah, man, hopefully you don't actually click on this hyperlink, because if you do, it's going to prove that I'm full of shit. So anyway, this is just the latest twist in a long-running campaign by the Russian embassy in Ottawa, dating back to the Soviet times when the USSR would leverage accusations of Nazi collaboration for political purposes as part of its active measures operations. And given Moscow's own history of aggression and atrocities during World War II, which they haven't talked about, and its aftermath, there's a special cynicism underlying the Russian accusations. Russia feels comfortable shouting about Nazis, real or imaginary. Bro, there have not been any imaginary Nazis. Anyway, real or imaginary, in Russia or elsewhere, because unlike Nazi Germany, leaders and soldiers of the Soviet Union were never put on trial for their war crimes. You mean leaders in that? No Allied power was put on trial for their war crimes. Actually, if you want to be real, I don't know exactly what war crimes he's referring to, because everybody just says they had war crimes. But it says Russia clings to the Nuremberg trials as a benchmark of legitimacy because as a victorious power, it was never subjected to the same reckoning, almost like the United States in how they bombed Japan for no reason. Whatever. And yet, both before and after their collective collaborative effort to carve up Eastern Europe between them. No, the collective and collaborative effort by the United States, like FDR in the Yalta Conference, where that happened, whatever. And yet, both before and after their collective and collaborative effort to carve up Eastern Europe between them, the Soviets and the Nazis had so much in common that it's now illegal to point to the similarities out in Russia. Y'all, I want y'all to understand something. What is the title of this article? Fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Right? That's what the title of this article says. I'm not crazy. Where I read 3/4 of that article. I read all of it yesterday, but we got through 3/4 of that article. Did they give you a single example of someone who was part of a Nazi unit during World War II fighting the USSR who wasn't a Nazi? Did they give one single example? Did they get a single example, y'all? Did I miss it? You know, my reading comprehension may not be up to par. It may not be what it once was. But did I miss the example? The article literally says, fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. They did not give a single example of a group of people who, specifically a group of people from Germany, part of the Wafer unit, that fought against Russia and wasn't a Nazi. They tried to make some weird claim that, yeah, man, they were Nazis, but like they didn't commit war crimes, you know. Also, they're kind of bad. And USSR was bad too. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. We talking about your article with your title that your senior editor approved that said fighting against the USSR didn't mean you were a Nazi, and you literally did not. And what's even crazier, bro, and I can't show the video. Like, I can't show it. I want to show it, but I know I'm gonna get in trouble by YouTube because there's a video of literally thousands of people in Ukraine celebrating this same battalion that Hunka belonged to. And I can't show the video because it's full of Nazi paraphernalia and Nazi tattoos and Nazi keychains. When I can't even go, like, that's what's crazy. I can't even make the argument, people. I can't even use that video evidence to show just how Nazi this Nazi unit was because it's too Nazi for streaming services. There is too much Naziing going on for the streaming service for me to show you more evidence of just how Nazi this Nazi battalion was, or this Nazi brigade was. And they got this he wrote an article that had the audacity to have the title, just because you fought against the USSR doesn't mean you're a Nazi. Well, can you give me an example? You can't even give me a single example of the title that you fucking put out. Man, propaganda is crazy, dog. Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, man, y'all know USSR, they did some bad things too sometimes. Okay. Right. Yeah, and they might have been Nazi sometimes. Okay. So, but USSR, they weren't always good. Okay. All right. Still waiting. All right. So we're just not, so you're not going to give me, but that is propaganda. They started out the article with this premise, with the title, fighting against the USSR, like, does not necessarily make you a Nazi. And they did that because they knew all the liberals, the neoliberals, the people who are pro-Ukraine, anti-Russia, pro-Western propaganda, pro-NATO, they're going to retweet it, right? They're not going to read the article. They're going to retweet, they're going to share, and they're going to screenshot. See, told y'all, not everybody who fucking, boy, you take 5 minutes to read the article and I read the article twice yesterday because I was confused. I was like, hold up, maybe it's like, did they edit it or something? Did they change, like, is this a new title or did they take some information out? How do you read this and be like, man, that title definitely did this article justice, for sure. No, it did not. It didn't do any justice to it. That title makes no sense with the article. So until otherwise proven, just let everybody know, in case y'all want to know what the conclusion of this particular situation is. If you are from the German military during World War II and you fought on the Eastern Front against the USSR, you were a Nazi. It was a Nazi. The unit was a Nazi unit. They were not on the side of the Allied powers. And the Allied powers, if I'm being completely honest, weren't altruistic their damn selves. That's a whole different conversation. But Nazi. The article is wrong. Like, there's an exception. Like, at some point, I think Russia and Japan were engaged in their own little thing, like during World War II. Like, but also Japan was fighting at that particular moment on the side of Nazis. So, like, yeah, you might not have been a Nazi, but you were a Japanazi. Just saying, by extension. It doesn't really help your case. That's all I'm saying. Just because you were speaking Japanese, like, doesn't mean like it helps your case. That's all I'm saying. There is nuance to be discussed, but the nuance doesn't really change the fact that, yes, fighting against World War II fighting against USSR on the Eastern Front in World War II from Germany, for part of a German unit, you were a Nazi. Yeah, there is no nuance. That is the nuance.